There's an uncomfortable truth that most men are too afraid to face. Attraction isn't an act of love. It's an act of power. And that power belongs to the one who understands the human mind beyond what's visible. Most men think attraction is about sweet words, gifts, or luck. But those who've looked beyond the mirror know that attraction is a psychological game, a silent war where the one who controls perception always wins. I'm Melkor Huamán, expert in persuasion, manipulation, and dark psychology, and here on Invisible Power, I'll reveal what she'll never tell you, what she's afraid to admit, even to herself. Because real power isn't in what you do, it's in what you make others feel without saying a word. Since the days of Niccolo Machiavelli, it's been known that control comes from knowing others, but even more from knowing yourself. He wrote that it's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. In the art of attraction, that means one thing. A woman respects before she loves, and she desires when she feels she can't possess. Female desire doesn't follow logic. It follows emotion, mystery, and danger. As Robert Greene once wrote, seduction is a dance between power and vulnerability, and the one who leads the rhythm leads the outcome. Think about it. When a woman feels attraction, she's not making a conscious decision. You've triggered something far deeper, an unconscious pattern. What she feels is a mix of curiosity, tension, and a subtle sense of emotional risk. It's what Kevin Dutton calls the magnetism of the functional psychopath, that calm, cold, controlled energy that commands respect and desire at the same time. And this is where dark psychology begins. Not to harm, but to understand how the female subconscious operates and how you can use that knowledge to your advantage. The average man seeks approval. He wants to be accepted, chosen. But the man who understands the female mind knows that approval kills attraction because it destroys mystery. As Dale Carnegie taught, influence isn't about convincing, it's about making others want to do what you want. The powerful man doesn't ask, he makes them choose him willingly. That's the essence of psychological dominance. When a woman looks at you, she's not analyzing your words. Her emotional brain is scanning your control, your presence, your energy. This is the nonverbal language that Paul Ekman studied for decades. Micro-expressions, posture, tone, pauses. Everything communicates, even silence. And the man who masters his silence masters her attention, because silence creates a void. And the mind rushes to fill voids with curiosity. And where curiosity lives, connection begins. Sun Tzu, in The Art of War, said that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. In attraction, that means one thing: win her mind before you ever touch her body. Make her think of you when you're gone. Make her imagine, make her slightly fear what you awaken in her. This isn't destructive manipulation. It's strategic, emotional intelligence. Desire begins in the mind, not the body. She craves what her mind can't control. Robert B. Cialdini, in his research on influence, proved that humans respond to 6 universal triggers. One of them is scarcity. What's rare becomes valuable. What's abundant becomes invisible. If you're always available, you fade into the background. But if you know how to withdraw at the right time, your attention becomes a reward. And the female brain loves emotional rewards. Every drop of your attention becomes a dopamine hit. That's why the man who leaves at the right moment becomes addictive. Edward Bernays, the father of propaganda, understood that the human mind doesn't seek truth. It seeks emotional satisfaction. The same rule governs attraction. A woman doesn't fall for the nicest man. She falls for the one who makes her feel something irrational. That something is power. Not power over her, but power over yourself. Male self-control is erotic. The man who doesn't need, who doesn't chase, who doesn't explain, controls the narrative of desire, and every woman feels it. Philip Zimbardo, through the Stanford Prison Experiment, revealed how environment shapes behavior. In attraction, you create the environment. If you project mystery, she reacts with curiosity. If you project weakness, she responds with indifference. Dark psychology isn't evil. It's awareness of invisible stimuli that mold human emotion. You choose how to use it, to manipulate, or to elevate. Aldous Huxley warned that people aren't enslaved by force, but by pleasure. That defines modern seduction. It's not physical control, it's emotional stimulation. A woman gives herself when she feels pleasure in your presence, when your words, your energy, your silence feed her imagination. The female mind doesn't crave what it has. It craves what promises emotional intensity. If you become that promise, you'll never need to prove anything again. I learned this not through theory, but through observation and experience. Every woman has a hidden code, and that code isn't decoded by logic, but by perception. Some women are visual, others emotional or instinctive, but all respond to power. As George K. Simon explained, covert manipulation isn't open aggression. It's the art of moving emotions without being noticed. The man who masters that art doesn't raise his voice, doesn't chase, doesn't plead. He simply creates an irresistible atmosphere. But remember, psychological mastery without ethics becomes destruction. The difference between a manipulator and a strategist lies in intention. One seeks control, the other seeks understanding. In dark psychology, that line is razor thin. That's why the first step to mastering attraction isn't learning how to control women. It's learning how to control yourself. The man who commands his own mind becomes magnetic, not because he manipulates, but because he radiates control. And in the female subconscious, control equals safety. Understand this. Attraction isn't a conquest, it's an energy exchange. She gives attention to the man who evokes emotion, not to the man who begs for affection. So never ask, suggest, never declare, inspire, never insist, withdraw. And when you do, her mind will fill the silence with desire. It's the paradox that Daniel Kahneman described in his theory of fast and slow thinking. The human mind prefers the illusion of control over truth. When she feels she's choosing, she's already been influenced. So here, on this channel, you won't learn cheap tricks or pickup lines. You'll learn power, observation, calmness, and strategy. Because true strength isn't about talking, it's about reading. Reading gestures, pauses, breathing, silence. A woman reveals more in what she hides than in what she says. And when you learn to hear what isn't spoken, you'll hold the key to desire itself. This is only the beginning. From now on, stop trying to be loved, start being understood. Because when you understand the female mind, you stop chasing and start attracting, and that's the secret she'll never confess. Because she fears the men who discover it. Every man has met her. The woman who enters a room and shifts the atmosphere without saying a word. The woman who smiles once and plants herself in your mind for days. You try to be logical, you try to act indifferent. But something about her presence bypasses your rational mind and speaks directly to your instincts. That's when you realize that attraction isn't born in the eyes, it's born in the unconscious. And whoever controls that space controls the outcome. What most men never understand is that women aren't attracted to looks, status, or money alone. They're attracted to what those things represent: power, control, mystery. Every trait she desires is tied to one emotion: safety through dominance. Not domination over her, but dominance over yourself and your environment. The paradox of attraction is that she wants to feel both safe and challenged, comforted yet intrigued. She wants a man whose energy says, "I can touch your soul without begging for your body." Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I met a woman named Isabel. Beautiful, intelligent, confident. Every man around her, bent like gravity itself, pulled them toward her. I said almost nothing. I listened, watched, observed the rhythm of her words, her gestures. When I spoke, I lowered my tone, slowed my pace, and looked directly into her eyes. Not with hunger, but with awareness. She became silent, nervous, intrigued. Later she told me, "You made me feel like I was being read." That's the first law of psychological dominance. The person who observes controls. Observation gives you power because you're not reacting, you're decoding. When you start to analyze the female mind, you realize that most toxic behaviors, ghosting, tests, emotional withdrawal, are subconscious strategies of validation. They're not cruelty, they're psychological filters. A woman tests a man to measure his stability. She creates small storms to see if you lose your center. And the moment you react emotionally, you fail the test. Because for her, emotional volatility equals weakness. The man who stays calm under chaos becomes a psychological anchor. That calmness is more seductive than any words. This is where Paul Ekman and Philip Zimbardo intersect. Ekman taught that emotions are contagious. Our facial micro-expressions mirror the state of the person we're observing. Zimbardo showed how context transforms behavior. Combine those two, and you realize that when a woman interacts with you, she's subconsciously mirroring your emotional temperature. If you radiate control, she feels safe. If you radiate need, she feels trapped. In other words, your emotions train hers. Dark psychology teaches that the human mind follows invisible scripts. Women especially are sensitive to them because of their evolved social awareness. Robert D. Hare describes psychopaths as masters of emotional mimicry. They study others like instruments. You don't need to be one, but you can learn from their precision. Read people like data, tone, tempo, eye contact, silences. Every gesture is information, and information is leverage. Now let's talk about the 3 layers of female attraction. The first is biological. Her primal instincts respond to strength, confidence, and calm dominance. The second is psychological. Her emotions respond to mystery, scarcity, and unpredictability. The third is symbolic. Her intellect responds to what you represent. Your purpose, your vision, your sense of control over your destiny. When all 3 align, you become unforgettable. Not because you chased her, but because she felt you on every level of her psyche. Consider another story. A client once told me about a woman who ignored his messages for days. He panicked, sent long explanations, tried to reason with her. She pulled further away. I told him to stop, to disappear. For a week he said nothing. Then she texted, "Are you okay?" That's Cialdini's law of scarcity in action. When you vanish, her mind fills the silence with questions. Curiosity becomes anxiety. Anxiety becomes desire. She wants to close the gap that she created. The same principle that drives marketing drives seduction. The less available you are, the more valuable you become. But this isn't about playing games. It's about understanding the mechanics of emotional reward. Daniel Kahneman demonstrated that humans seek predictability. But paradoxically, what keeps us hooked is uncertainty. The brain releases more dopamine when it can't predict the reward. That's why the woman who knows exactly when you'll call gets bored, while the one who doesn't obsesses. Mystery is not cruelty, it's neuroscience. Women also use this principle, often unconsciously. They post a photo, disappear, then return with silence. They delay responses to increase emotional value. They understand the currency of attention. And if you don't, you become their investment. But when you mirror their strategy with calm awareness, you shift the dynamic. Suddenly, she's the one analyzing your silence. I remember a moment with another woman, Elena. She was the kind who tested every man, with sarcasm, with coldness, with charm. During dinner, she said, "You think you know women?" I smiled and replied, "No, I just know patterns." She looked at me, confused, slightly defensive but intrigued. The conversation slowed. She leaned in. Her curiosity took over her pride. That's the art. Never argue, never defend, never chase. Let silence do the talking. When you refuse to explain yourself, you become a mirror. And the female mind is irresistibly drawn to mirrors. Every toxic woman uses the same arsenal: guilt, emotional chaos, attention withdrawal, comparison, and seduction through vulnerability. These are not conscious choices. They are instinctive tactics to test your frame. Dark psychology teaches you to respond with neutrality. Neither warmth nor coldness, just presence. Because neutrality disarms. The moment you stop reacting, she loses control of the emotional rhythm. And that's when she starts to respect you. Robert Greene said that power isn't about force, it's about perception. To her, the man who doesn't need validation is dangerous because she can't define him, and what can't be defined becomes hypnotic. When she feels that you could walk away at any time, she invests more, emotionally, mentally, physically. This is why the calm man wins. His lack of need creates tension, and tension is the oxygen of attraction. Now, understand this paradox. The same psychology that manipulates can also heal. The tools are neutral. It's the intention that defines the outcome. When you apply dark psychology with awareness, you protect your energy. You stop falling into emotional traps. Stop confusing empathy with weakness. You become what Kevin Dutton calls a functional dark empath. Someone who understands manipulation but uses it to create stability, not chaos. Let's go deeper. The most powerful signal a man can emit is emotional indifference. That doesn't mean coldness. It means detachment from outcome. When you no longer care whether she stays or leaves, your energy changes. You speak slower, move slower, breathe slower. She feels it. The power dynamic flips. Suddenly, she's investing to earn your attention, not because of ego, but because her subconscious craves validation from stability. You've become her emotional anchor. This is what Stephen Hassan refers to as controlled influence. Influence isn't forcing behavior. It's guiding emotion. When a woman feels emotionally safe but mentally challenged, she bonds deeply. Her guard lowers because she doesn't perceive threat. She perceives leadership. Leadership, in psychological terms, is simply certainty projected outward. You don't need dominance to lead. You need clarity. Let me share one final example. During a seminar, a student asked, "Melkor, what do I do when a woman starts pulling away?" I said, "You let her." He looked confused. I explained, "When she pulls away, she's measuring her emotional power over you. If you chase, you confirm she has it. If you stay calm, she questions her control. And when she questions, she re-engages. That's behavioral conditioning, as B.F. Skinner described. Reinforce the behaviors you want. Ignore the ones you don't. Attention is the currency. Spend it wisely, but don't misinterpret this. The goal isn't to dominate women. It's to dominate your emotional landscape. A true man doesn't manipulate. He orchestrates. He reads the game, but never becomes the game. He walks into chaos and stays centered, because he understands what most never will. The mind that controls itself becomes the most seductive force on earth. The woman you desire isn't testing your love. She's testing your control. She's measuring your depth, your self-worth, your emotional gravity. Fail the test and you become forgettable. Pass it and you become a mental addiction. Because at her core, every woman craves one thing, the feeling of losing control safely. And only a man rooted in self-mastery can offer that paradox. When you master dark psychology, you stop reacting to her storms. You start controlling the weather. You anticipate her emotions before she names them. You move through her defenses not with manipulation, but with understanding. You don't chase validation, you command attention. And when you walk away, you don't leave emptiness behind. You leave imprint. That's the difference between being remembered and being desired, because in the end, attraction isn't about what she sees in you. It's about what she feels about herself when she's near you. And if you can make her feel seen, tested, and slightly afraid of losing you, you've already won the psychological game. Every principle means nothing if you can't apply it. Knowledge without embodiment is illusion. You can read about power, control, and attraction for years. But until your posture, your tone, and your silence carry that understanding, you're still playing theory. The real transformation begins the moment your psychology becomes your presence. When I first studied the depths of dark psychology, I realized that people don't respond to what you say. They respond to what your energy communicates before a word leaves your mouth. That's why the most seductive men say the least. They know that mystery is built through restraint, not effort. So the first practical step to master female attraction is this: control your state. Every morning, before you interact with anyone, you train your energy. Stand still, breathe deep, feel your pulse. Imagine that every exhale carries chaos away from your body, and every inhale brings stillness back. This is not meditation for peace. It's conditioning for dominance. Because when you control your physiological signals, you project composure. And composure creates magnetic tension. A woman doesn't consciously think, "He's calm." She just feels it, and that feeling translates to trust, curiosity, and respect. It's what Robert Greene meant when he said that power flows from patience. The slower you move, the faster people submit to your rhythm. Once your state is centered, the next principle is controlled detachment. Never let your emotional state depend on external validation. You must learn to watch desire without obeying it. Imagine walking through a room full of beautiful women. Your mind acknowledges, but your emotions remain neutral. That neutrality is what they'll feel, because women don't crave a man who needs them. They crave a man who could have them all but chooses none easily. That selective energy triggers primal desire. The ancient masters knew this. Sun Tzu wrote that victory is achieved before battle through positioning. The same applies to seduction. When you walk into any social environment, you're already communicating value through non-verbal dominance, posture, pace, eye contact, space control. Hold eye contact not to intimidate but to test. When she looks away first, you already have psychological leverage. When she holds it, she's inviting tension. You read, never react, but there's more. Every man must cultivate what I call the emotional laboratory. A place in your life where you deliberately practice influence. Talk to strangers, observe their reactions, adjust your tone, and test your ability to guide emotions. Watch what happens when you speak slower than usual. Notice how silence bends their attention. Influence, like muscle, grows with repetition. Now, the ethical use of dark psychology begins with self-awareness. You must know your motives. Ask yourself, am I seeking control to fill emptiness or to refine mastery? The answer determines whether your power becomes destructive or magnetic. The manipulator seeks validation. The strategist seeks precision. The difference is purpose. Once you've mastered your state and your detachment, the next step is creating emotional gravity. Emotional gravity is when your presence pulls attention naturally, not through volume or display, but through focus. When you speak to a woman, focus completely. Let your gaze remain steady, your tone low, your words few but deliberate. People remember intensity more than content. She will forget what you said, but not how your energy made her feel. Every word must have weight. Edward Bernays used to say that people don't buy products, they buy emotions. In relationships, it's the same. She's not drawn to you because of logic. She's drawn because you make her feel seen, challenged, and desired all at once. That combination confuses the female brain just enough to trigger obsession, because confusion feeds intrigue, and intrigue feeds desire. At this point, you must start practicing controlled unpredictability. Don't become the man she can schedule. Text at different times. Leave conversations unfinished. Disappear after an intense interaction. Humans crave patterns, but attraction dies when patterns stabilize. So you disrupt them, not with games, but with awareness. You become the variable in her mental equation, and that keeps her mind orbiting you. Halfway through this transformation, you'll notice something powerful. You no longer chase. You attract. Because your silence speaks louder than her words, and your absence feels heavier than your presence used to. That's when you understand the essence of dominance. It's not about control over others, it's control over how they feel around you. There's a reason I repeat that power begins with discipline. Every gesture you make, every word you choose, every silence you hold becomes a reflection of your inner structure. If you want to master attraction, you must first master structure. And that begins with habits. Start with the ritual of presence. When you wake, don't reach for your phone. Sit in stillness. Breathe and visualize the man you're becoming. See him walking through the world with calm authority. This practice wires your mind to associate stillness with control. Throughout the day, whenever you feel impatience or anxiety, recall that image. The moment you do, your body language changes, your tone softens, your eyes sharpen. You re-enter command mode. Next, I teach what I call the 70-30 rule of interaction. Speak only 30% of the time. Let the other 70 be silence, observation, and calibrated responses. In that quiet, women project fantasies onto you. Their imagination fills the space, building stories about who you might be. That's the psychological principle of projection, described by Carl Jung. The mind attributes its own desires to external figures. The less you reveal, the more they project. And in projection, attraction blooms. Now let's move to the micro-actions of dominance. Walk slowly in crowded spaces. Never rush. Slowness communicates control because urgency belongs to the powerless. Maintain micro-eye contact. Hold it one heartbeat longer than comfort allows. That pause implants memory. When you speak, lower your tone by half a note. Deepness signals stability. High-pitch signals insecurity. And finally, pause before answering questions. That pause says, I think before I speak. It's subtle, but in psychology, subtlety is supremacy. At this point, you might wonder, how do I balance power and empathy? The answer is through ethical detachment. You care, but you don't cling. You listen, but you don't absorb. You guide, but never rescue. This is the mindset of the strategic empath, the man who can feel emotion without drowning in it. Women sense that. They test to see if you'll collapse under emotional pressure. When you don't, their respect multiplies. I remember a woman named Leah, sharp, unpredictable, emotionally intense. She told me, "I scare men." I replied, "You don't scare men. You expose their lack of structure." She went silent. Then she smiled. For the first time, she met a man who didn't try to calm her, fix her, or compete with her fire. I simply contained it. That's what dark psychology calls emotional containment, absorbing energy without reacting. It's one of the rarest and most magnetic skills a man can master. Here's an exercise. When someone raises their voice, lower yours. When someone speeds up, slow down. You're training your nervous system to lead the rhythm. Leadership is rhythm control, in conversation, in attraction, in conflict. The one who sets the rhythm, sets the frame. And women feel frames more than they hear words. Now, halfway through this journey, I'll ask you something important. If this message resonates with you, if you feel the shift inside, the awakening of that silent authority, then stay close. Subscribe to this channel, Invisible Power. Here we transform theory into presence and presence into dominance. I share what others hide, not to manipulate, but to awaken the part of you that the world tried to silence. Because make no mistake, society trains men to apologize for their strength, to hide their assertiveness, to confuse confidence with arrogance. But the truth is, controlled power is virtue. It's the foundation of trust, leadership, and attraction. When you stand grounded in yourself, you don't need validation. The world begins to orbit you naturally. From this moment on, start recording your daily interactions. Observe when you lose composure, when you over-explain, when you chase. Each of those moments reveals an emotional weakness, and each weakness can be trained. Replace explanation with silence, reaction with analysis, need with curiosity. In time, your energy will shift from seeking to selecting. And that shift changes everything. The man who selects radiates abundance. He is the psychological equivalent of scarcity. Rare, valuable, untouchable. And that, my friend, is the invisible power behind every true seducer. Every transformation demands ritual. You can't rewire your psychology without daily repetition. Influence isn't a single act. It's the consequence of consistency. Each small act of control builds a neural architecture of dominance. Begin with the mirror exercise. Every night, stand before your reflection. Don't fix your posture. Don't adjust your expression. Just observe. Watch your eyes until you feel discomfort. That discomfort is truth. The moment you stop hiding from your own gaze. Stay there until your breathing slows. What you're training isn't vanity, it's presence under pressure. When you can hold your own stare, you can hold anyone's. Women sense that steadiness as primal authority. Then practice emotional mirroring. During any interaction, subtly reflect the other person's tone and rhythm, but maintain internal detachment. You're learning emotional mimicry, the same method Paul Ekman found in elite negotiators. When done with awareness, it builds rapport instantly. The key is control. You mirror without absorbing. That's emotional Aikido, redirecting energy instead of resisting it. Now, the most overlooked element of attraction, voice calibration. Your voice is your psychological signature. Record yourself. Listen to your tone when you speak under stress. Most men sound tense, rushed, apologetic. Train your voice until every syllable carries composure. Women don't analyze tone consciously. Their subconscious does. A calm voice signals capability. A frantic one screams insecurity. In conversation, focus on rhythm rather than words. Pause after key phrases. Let silence act as punctuation. The female brain processes silence as anticipation. That anticipation triggers dopamine release, the same mechanism that keeps people addicted to stories. You're not just speaking, you're crafting chemical rhythm. To ground this into your daily behavior, use environmental anchors. Every time you enter a room, touch an object, a ring, a bracelet, a wrist, and remind yourself, I'm the calm in the chaos. Over time, this physical cue anchors the psychological state. So when pressure rises, your body automatically recalls composure. That's behavioral conditioning, control embedded in muscle memory. One of my students, Adrian, mastered this technique. Once a timid man who over-explained everything, he practiced silence and anchoring for 90 days. When he met a woman who once ignored him, she told him, "You feel different, heavier." She couldn't define it, but she felt it. That heaviness was energy consolidation. His emotions no longer leaked through insecurity. The paradox of attraction is that when your energy becomes dense, people feel it before they understand it. Let's talk about mental fasting. Just as your body needs rest, your mind needs silence. Stop flooding your brain with constant noise, podcasts, social media, meaningless conversations. Solitude sharpens perception. The darker your silence, the sharper your influence. Machiavelli thrived in solitude because isolation refines calculation. A man who is comfortable alone becomes dangerous in any crowd. Now combine this with delayed gratification. Every time you resist an impulse, a reply, a craving, a distraction, you train the same muscle that controls desire. The more you practice restraint, the more sexual and psychological magnetism you radiate. Why? Because energy that's not wasted becomes presence. Daniel Kahneman proved that self-control increases perceived intelligence and trustworthiness. The female mind interprets discipline as capability, and capability to her equals safety. Soon you'll reach a point where your stillness speaks louder than your effort. You'll enter a room, and attention will shift before you say a word. That's not magic, it's psychology. You've conditioned your nervous system to transmit stability. And in a world addicted to chaos, stability is erotic. So remember, seduction isn't about performance. It's about energy economy. The less you waste, the more you attract. You've learned to control your state, your silence, your rhythm. Now it's time to integrate all of it into one identity. Because power that isn't embodied is forgotten. Integration means your habits, words, and energy begin to align into a single signal. Command. The first step of integration is identity scripting. Every morning before stepping out, say quietly to yourself, "I don't chase. I attract. I don't seek approval. I project certainty." These aren't affirmations, they're neurological commands. Spoken consistently, they rewire your limbic responses, shifting your default from reactivity to control. In time, the world will mirror that energy back. Next, reprogram your reward system. Most men reward themselves through distraction. Dopamine hits that keep them soft, scrolling, fantasy, approval. Replace them with delayed victories. Hit the gym, study human behavior, perfect your posture, and end your nights in silence. Every small act of mastery releases clean dopamine, the kind that builds identity, not addiction. Women feel this difference instantly. They sense when a man's energy is sourced from purpose, not pleasure. Then, practice emotional withdrawal as training, not punishment. Once a week, reduce communication. Speak less. Detach from your phone. Observe how the world reacts when your energy disappears. You'll see who respects your space and who feeds on your attention. That awareness separates allies from parasites, lovers from liabilities. Emotional withdrawal is the battlefield of self-knowledge. Let me share something personal. Years ago, during my own transformation, I spent weeks in near silence. No dates, no distractions, no validation, just observation. The first few days felt like loss. Then came power. I realized that energy never leaves. It simply returns home. And when it does, you see the world with new eyes. You stop asking, "How do I get her attention?" and start asking, "Why do I want it?" That question changes everything. Attraction born from need creates dependency. Attraction born from mastery creates magnetism. One collapses when ignored, the other grows stronger in absence. That's the essence of invisible power. To influence without showing intention, to dominate without aggression, to attract without movement. Now let's close this section with the triad of transformation. 3 habits that must anchor your daily life if you want permanent psychological authority. First, observation over reaction. Every time emotion rises, delay your response. That gap is your weapon. The longer you can hold tension, the more power you command. Second, silence over validation. Never explain yourself. Let your results, your energy, and your calmness be your argument. Explanation weakens mystery. Mystery multiplies influence. Third, detachment over desire. Desire is powerful only when it's disciplined. The man who can walk away holds all the cards. That's not arrogance. It's self-respect. When you live by these three, attraction becomes effortless. You'll begin to notice the shift. Her messages change tone, her eyes hold longer, her voice softens around you. It's not magic and it's conditioning. You've become the rare signal in a world of noise. And the human mind, especially the female mind, is drawn to rarity like gravity. Remember, the purpose of all this isn't manipulation, it's transcendence. You're not learning to control women. You're learning to control the reactions that once controlled you. When you no longer bend to emotion, you bend reality itself. That's when you understand the real secret. Power isn't taken. It's remembered. And when a man remembers who he truly is, calm, centered, certain, the world and every woman within it will recognize him without a single word. There comes a point in every man's evolution where he stops asking how to attract and starts asking why he ever needed to. When you reach that moment, your entire perception of power changes. You realize that the goal was never to control others. It was to master yourself so deeply that control becomes unnecessary. Attraction, persuasion, dominance, they're not tricks. They're mirrors. The woman who resists you, the one who tests you, the one who disappears, they all reflect the parts of you you've yet to conquer. Every rejection exposes where your confidence was built on illusion. Every silence she gives you is a test of your inner voice. The weak man breaks under that silence. The powerful one grows quieter. You begin to see that power isn't loud. It's invisible. The greatest influence is presence without explanation. The rarest seduction is calmness under tension. And the most dangerous man is the one who's at peace with walking away. Because walking away means you've won the only battle that matters. The war against your own need. Robert Greene once said that mastery is the fusion of discipline and intuition. You've studied tactics, principles, human nature. Now they must disappear into instinct. The moment you stop thinking, what should I say? And simply your energy becomes pure. Women feel that immediately. She'll sense it in your pauses, your gaze, your detachment. You'll become the calm eye within her storm. The man she didn't know she craved until she met your silence. The world calls it dark psychology. I call it awareness. You're not manipulating emotions. You're reading them. You're not controlling minds. You're mastering your own frequency. Influence is simply energy alignment. When your energy vibrates higher than chaos, everything chaotic bends toward it. That's why presence is stronger than persuasion. Presence is persuasion embodied. There's a deeper truth here. Every man must die once before he becomes powerful. The death of approval, of the boy seeking attention, of the lover begging to be chosen. That death hurts, but it's sacred. It's the moment you become dangerous in the best possible way. You no longer need to convince, explain, or prove. You exist, and your existence is enough to shift the emotional field around you. That's what women feel as dominance, not aggression, but gravity. When you reach this level, everything slows down. You start to see patterns others miss. You notice the micro tremor in her voice when she's interested, the half-second pause before she lies, the dilation of her pupils when curiosity turns to arousal. You see it all, but you no longer chase it. You understand that attention is a current, and you are the tide, not the wave. Power in its purest form is silent understanding. You don't need to expose lies. You simply let them reveal themselves. You don't need to seek love. You become the kind of man love seeks. That's the paradox of invisible power. Once you stop needing it, it never leaves you. But I'll leave you with a question. One that only a few will truly answer. When the game ends, when the masks fall, when the lights go out and it's just you and your mind, do you control your thoughts or do they control you? Because that's the true measure of mastery. Not how many people you can influence, but how deeply you can remain unmoved. Every lesson you've learned here, every tactic, every reflection leads to this final truth. The man who owns his silence owns his world. So from this moment forward, stop chasing attention, become the attention. Walk through life as if you already know the outcome. Because when your mind believes it, reality obeys it. And when she looks at you, The woman who once tested, resisted or doubted, she won't see manipulation or mystery. She'll see a man who moves with intent, who speaks with patience, and whose eyes say, "I am not here to be chosen. I am here to choose." That's the essence of invisible power. That's the art of attraction without words. And that's the point where darkness turns into clarity. This is Melkor Huamán, reminding you, the world doesn't belong to those who seek permission. It belongs to those who command their presence. Now ask yourself, do you command yours?